There's so much to be thankful for. Look beyond ourselves, there's so much sorrow. It's way too late to say I'll cry tomorrow. Each of us must find our truth. It's so long overdue. So for tonight, we ask for what we know can be, and on this day, we hope for what we still can't see. It's up to us to be the change, and even though we all can still do more, there's so much to be thankful for. Even with our differences, there is a place we're all connected. Each of us can find each other's light. So for tonight, we ask for what we know can be, and on this day, we hope for what we still can't see. It's up to us to be the change. And even though this world needs so much more, there's so much to be thankful for.
I don't know why you'd have any debate on whether to sing that or not, dude. Excuse me, let me take my shirt off so you can see my bright orange sweater. That's a pumpkin. It's made out of pumpkin, like pies. I love this service because it's more laid back, and I actually get to sit down, though I don't usually stay down long. You get kind of energized talking. Shannon talked earlier about apologies. It's a good word because most of us live semi-apologetic lives. We come here apologizing for what we think is not good or best about us. We do it subconsciously or unconsciously. I'm titling my talk, since the theme of the month is covenant, agreeing to disagree, and how we all wrestle with that, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously, because we want to get along. And I don't like being as apologetic, and I learned when I turned 40 that was, in biblical numerology, that's the age of probation, the number of probation. You have 40 years of wandering and wondering, really quite a bit longer than that, to be honest with you. But when I turned 40, I started being less apologetic for who I am or who I'm not. Not altogether, but I wrestle with this whole idea of apologetics. As a little black boy growing up in Southern California, we didn't have the Deep South mentality, but we were apologetic all the time for just being black, or imposing, or intruding, or being presumably unlikable. You're taught from childhood that a whole group of people don't like you, and you've heard of the Tillman story that's out right now. I didn't realize that I was apologetic, and I don't know when I stopped being that. And probably you are too in various ways of your life. What is it about us that causes shame or guilt or a sense of inadequacy? To agree is to have the same opinion about something. To concur. To either please or appease a presumed anger. Most of us wrestle with anger, and when I realized the theme this month was covenant, I thought first, with whom do I have covenant? Usually in a religious sense, you're always talking about the covenant with God. But I've been in this all my life, and I'm now reconsidering what covenant have I made with me? Do I like me? Or do I agree with me? Or in what ways do I agree or disagree with me? And I want you to think that I'm suggesting that you think today how to put this thing on. It ain't working. In what ways do you agree or not agree with you? We've just come from the Thanksgiving holiday. Most of us are with family members, many of whom agree or disagree with us on whatever subject. Most people don't talk about politics or religion anymore, anywhere, because they're very, very sensitive subjects. But right now, there's such a diverse opinions across this country. We've never seen such polarity. And it's uncomfortable just to be, because you're always apologizing for your opinions or defending them or offending somebody with them. So shall I not speak it? And if I don't offend you, is it because I want you to like me? And usually we say, I don't care what you think. And the one who says that means the exact opposite. I actually do care what you think, and I wish you'd change your thinking. But if you don't, let's hang together anyway. You're dealing with family members. Many people don't feel like their parents liked them as much as another one. Every once in a while, you come along when the kid knows they're the favorite. But a lot of times, the children among themselves disagree. Who is mama's favorite? People thought I've never been my parents' favorite. Towards the end of life, because we lived here and my other siblings live in other parts of this, but I was never the favorite coming up. I favored them. I was always trying to obey, trying to get them to like me. Do you know how much time we spend trying to get our parents to like us? Not love us. It's rarely a question of love. Trying to get them to like us. Most of us don't try to get our siblings to love us. Love is sort of natural. It just happens. But we don't feel liked. So we always feel either disagreed with or disagreeable. Part of the covenant you make with yourself is to accept the fact that there's some things about you that are disagreeable. And it's okay. And to not necessarily apologize about the part of me that you don't like. And I'm sure there is a part that you don't like. And if I spend time with you, I'll find out there's a part of you that I can't stand either. I often say, turn to the person next to you and say, I'm glad you don't look like me. Just say that right quick. And of course, while you're on the subject, you say, I'm sort of glad I don't look like you. Because variety or diversity is the spice, the flavoring, the herbal accoutrement of life. We like variety. That doesn't mean you like the onion by itself or the garlic by itself. We're not a melting pot. We're a stew in America. So many people want us to be a melting pot. If somebody comes to me and says, you know, Carlton, I never see your color. And I say, well, what would happen if you did? Would that make a difference in how you appreciate me as a human being? We don't even think about that. I don't. As far as somebody said to me years ago, and they didn't mean to be offensive at all. As far as I'm concerned, you're just like any other white person. When they got up, no, I'm kidding. They meant totally no harm at all. But we generalize and categorize even ourselves. How can I please you or appease you, assuming that if I don't please you, you're going to be angry? Religion itself is always the religion I was raised in was always trying to please a difficult God or appease a presumed angry one who is making a list, checking a tour, is going to find out who's not or not. So the psychosis behind all that has created a planet of people who are mentally ill, struggling to please or appease something that doesn't possibly even exist except in your imaginative thoughts. We presume we're not liked because we're never taught that we're liked, even by our parents. You know, I love you. I love you so much, darling. And if you're good and if you're bad, because the love does come with conditions, that doesn't mean that if you're bad, I stop loving you, but if you're bad, I stop liking you. Go sit in the corner. If you're good, I'll give you a candy bar. If you're not, I'm going to take your toys away. So we're always wrestling with trying to be good so somebody can like us. And it has caused a lot of difficulty in relationships. I don't care what you think. Who doesn't care what somebody thinks? You're saying, I don't want you to think I care what you think because I don't like the fact that you don't like me. How dare you not like me? As wonderful as I am. When somebody says something offensive to you, what may cause the reaction, if not the response alone, is that you agree with some of what they said. And you wish they didn't notice it, or they wouldn't make note of. To ignore doesn't mean to not know, it means to not notice. The Greek word for knowledge is gnosis, ignosis, prognosis, diagnosis. What don't you know about yourself? And what is it that you know about yourself that you don't believe? And what is it that you believe about yourself that you don't know? Covenant is solemn. It can be kind of clumsy. It's a little sullen. It's engaging. It's obligatory. It means I'm going to agree to disagree or not agree. And it's okay to have a different opinion. It is okay not to agree. To some, this is a bright, attractive orange sweater. To others, it's a distraction. It's too bright. It looks like it runs by batteries. It's not necessary. And to others, well, so what if I just wore black? Which is what I am from the beginning anyway. Is black's not so much a color as it is an experience. The way I've lived my life. But does it matter that I like the sweater or that I like that you like it? Look at the sweater you're wearing. No, nobody really likes that sweater that you're wearing. No, I'm kidding. You all looked at it and thought, oh my God. You know why you wore it? First of all, you like it, and you presumed I might. I'm not sure you would wear it if you presumed that most of us wouldn't like it, even though you do. How often does someone else's opinion affect your covenant? Or would you say, I don't have anything to wear. I'm just not going down there. They're paying attention to my clothes. I wish they wouldn't pay attention to my clothes. Who cares what I wear? You care what you wear. More than anybody. You nitpick at your hair, your nose, your earlobes, your teeth, your lips, your hips. You're either too tall, you're too short, you're too skinny, you're too fluffy. Whatever works. But the question is, to what extent have you entered covenant with yourself, your soul, your psyche? Because if you don't like you, others will have more difficulty liking you. The last several years of my life, particularly the last 20 years, I think, I've been thinking more about trying to like me because I wasn't taught to do that. Religion teaches you that you're filth and you should crucify yourself and the flesh is bad and you're on your way to hell and that whole thing. Do you realize there's at least 2 billion people that have that mental set that they are not good enough or God enough? That they need to be fixed, saved from God by God, protected from God by Jesus? That's the religion I was raised in. And I never really liked this idea of being apologetic. And so the older I get, it's not arrogance, it's confident. You're either independent or codependent or interdependent. And we might be all of that. I like to be dependent or independent. But I'm not married anymore, but I would have been married 30 years. I still love my wife. I feel an ounce of hostility. Did I get my feelings hurt? If you stick together, you agree to disagree. My parents were married 68 years. And I've told you before, Daddy was saying, yes, son, 68 years and I'm still doing time. Because they agreed to disagree for 68 years. People who last that long should get Nobel Peace Prizes. Not if you last 50 years, but if you last 15 years. Because the number one cause of divorce is marriage. See, when you enter it, you realize that, wait a minute. That's true. People who last, I respect you that you tolerate, if you will, and then learn to celebrate what you tolerate. It takes guts to be a mother, or a father, or a spouse, or a sibling. Nobody can hurt you like somebody you love, or who loves you. Sometimes nobody can hate you like somebody you love, or loved, or who loves you. So relationships are clumsy and cutsy sometimes, and speaking the language that your own, when I was coming up with this Pentecostal thing was that you had to speak in tongues with some kind of gibberish. I'm saying speaking in tongues now, my new Pentecostal, is making my daughter understand my language. And making me understand hers. These kids have come up with their own language. And they keep adding words to their alphabet every day. So it's not just translation, it's transliteration. The letters, the spelling, the language. How do I communicate with somebody who doesn't normally understand me? Do I care that you understand? Yes. And I don't want to apologize with the fact that I'm different. I'm different, and here we are at All Souls, love beyond belief or beliefs. Even to the point that we could have a humanist service. It's a little bit more comfortable for the beliefs with which that make us uncomfortable. So we're still in the same building, just around another room, a little smaller room. The service is a little shorter. The sermon is a little more boring. I mean, a little less. I love a short sermon. I mean, what's a 5-minute sermon? It used to take me that long to open my Bible and find the scripture location. To be able to talk 5 minutes and it be satiating enough, first that was an insult to me, and now it's a huge compliment. That I can say something for 5 minutes, the preacher, and people say, that was enough, thank you. Well, I studied an hour and a half or 2 hours or 3, and you only want 5 minutes of what I studied? That was enough, dude. Well, see, that opinion is important to us. Even if someone said, I don't like all the music, I get there in time for the sermon. Or I don't like the sermon, I just prefer the music, but I'll tolerate the sermon. Or I'll tolerate the music, but I really love to hear Marlon speak. When they bring in a different guy, it's not as much fun. I understand that, but get over yourself. Speakers have to do that as well. And as a husband or a father or a son, my mother's 93 years old. You know, she lives with me at the house. She's repetitive now because she has a little bit of dementia. And I love my mother. I wish she would not go through the house when everything is quiet and steal she'll get all the scissors, all the plates. She'll pack her room with just stuff like it's Depression days. And I say, Mom, the kitchen's just a couple of feet away. You don't need 15 knives in here. Or 15 pillows behind her. But then I say, wait a minute, this is Mom, and nobody's going to take better care than her for me, but me, for my standard of caring for my mom. So that she repeats herself, I don't agree with her. A lot of the things my mom does, but I adore her. She's like a goddess to me. And she adores me, whether she says it or not, which she rarely does. My mother's never one of those that said she liked us. She had struggled carrying all of us. What did I like most about marriage? There's a commitment to the fact that, and I often say, if a couple has the same opinion about everything all the time, one of them's not necessary. The Greek word for agreement is symphoneo, where we get the English word symphony. It doesn't mean to sound the same. It doesn't even mean to sound alike. It just means to sound together. To enjoy the diversity of love beyond varying beliefs. Because we all have beliefs or opinions or contracts and covenants and compacts with ourselves or with somebody else. How often as Barbara brought it this morning, do we break the covenant to agree to disagree? You know when you break the covenant, it's not when you stop agreeing. You break the covenant when you stop agreeing to disagree without being disagreeable. How can I accept the fact that my particular opinion or view or perception is valuable and valid, even if it's very different from everybody else whom I love and respect? How can I respect you the same with, even if you like Trump? I mean, if you like certain... How can you not suspect me or suspect my intelligence or my integrity because I vote a certain way, and then hold that against me? We do that inadvertently. I'm learning as I age to just relax and chill and let it be and let it go and not feel like it is my responsibility. And it's hard for us as preachers because we're always trying to get you to believe something. You know, preachers are some of I'll close with this. At the City of Faith, we had a department of the hospital that's anonymous. Oral, being the healing evangelist, didn't like going into hospitals. People came to him for 40 years for hospital prevention, not invention. Then he invented one. Well, we had this attitude about, there was a place where you could just bring in preachers, noted preachers, men of faith and power, but I had some people in my church who worked in anesthesia, and so they noticed that some of these preachers came in, and when they put them just slightly under, they would start spewing these vindictives and cursing so profoundly. And I said, "You mean Oral too?" They said, "Yes, he was worse than all of them." This was a couple in my church, and I said, "Well, you got to understand that preachers, particularly of our particular exotic form of faith, are very angry because we're trying to convince people that an invisible God is speaking to us and through us, and we're trying to tell you what that God says, and for you to give us more money to build a larger church, or that you should line up with the standards of our doctrine. You go to the seminary to be inseminated." That's what that term actually comes from. With whatever seed the doctrine is embracing. And I said, please forgive these preachers who inhibit themselves from cursing. Because we're Christians, we don't dare say foul language. But in there it's living. Some people say they're giving it to the Lord and they're giving it to their lungs or their liver. And it's gnawing at their insides and they end up flat off their back. And I said, you have to understand that our traditions make us apologize for being angry, or makes us apologize for being less religious or more human. I've just decided I'm free to be me. I'm happy to be me. I no longer want to apologize about being me. And part of my covenant with me is I accept the fact that you have that same freedom and you should use it unapologetically, not with arrogance, but the kind of confidence that forces me to respect you just as you are. Pluribus unum means out of many, one. As Unitarians, we believe that out of one, many. That one ultimate reality comes all the varying expressions, that we're not a melting pot as much as we are a stew. And when all the ingredients count, the tomato is tomato, the corn is the corn, the okra is the okra, the onion is the onion. But when we start stewing together, as we do here, we start tasting a little bit like each other. And stew is always better tomorrow. I love you. Peace and blessing.
Song by Libby Roderick goes like this. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? how deeply you're connected to my soul.